let's talk about something kind of wild. Imagine this. Someone you know and trust steals something valuable from you. You have proof. It's an open and shut case, so you call the cops. But when they get there, they listen to your story, nod, and then tell you there's nothing they can do. Why? Because the thief is your own brother. It sounds impossible, right? Well, today we are diving deep into a real and pretty shocking legal idea. Some people call it the family loophole. It's a rule that says in certain situations, family ties can literally act like a shield, making criminal charges for things like theft just disappear. It's a fascinating little corner of the law where the system decides that keeping a family from falling apart is more important than putting one of its own in jail. So how are we going to unpack all this? We're going to break it down into 6 key parts. First up, we'll explore what feels like a literal get-out-of-jail-free card for families. Then, we're going to step inside what I call the immunity bubble to see who exactly gets to be protected. After that, we'll look at the only 3 crimes this whole thing covers. That leads us to a big question. Is this a crime without any punishment? We'll also find out when this protective bubble can actually burst. And finally, we're going to wrap it all up by asking the really tough question. Is this law about justice, or is it about putting family above everything else?
All right, let's jump right into our first section, the family get-out-of-jail card. To really wrap our heads around this, we're not going to start with some dense legal text. No, we're going to start with a scenario, something that feels like it should be the simplest crime in the world to solve.
Okay, really put yourself in these shoes for a second. You've been saving up for months. You finally buy that brand new gaming console, the one you've been dreaming about. It's awesome. Then, a week later, it's just gone. You look everywhere, and then you find out your own brother took it, pawned it for quick cash, and doesn't even seem sorry. You're not just mad, you're hurt, you're betrayed. So you do what anyone would do. You call the police. But when they show up, they tell you that, legally speaking, their hands are tied. They can't arrest him. You're just left there, completely stunned, thinking, what do you mean? How is that even possible? Stealing is stealing, right? Well, the answer is right here. It's a very real law called Article 332 of the Revised Penal Code. Now, this isn't some weird loophole someone found or a police officer's personal judgment call. Nope. It's a rule written right into the law books that creates an exemption from criminal liability. And that word, criminal, is everything here. What this law basically says is that when certain types of criminal property crimes happen between very specific family members, the state, the government, the prosecution has agreed to just step back. They won't press charges. The easiest way to think about this is to picture a family immunity bubble. It's like the law creates this invisible force field around the family. And when a crime like theft happens inside that bubble, say between a parent and a child or 2 spouses, the full force of the criminal justice system, things like arrests, public trials, jail time, it all just bounces right off. The whole philosophy behind this is that the scandal, the damage of a public criminal trial, could be way more destructive to the family and to society than letting the family handle its own internal property disputes. Okay, so that brings us to a super important question. If there is a bubble, who gets to be inside it? Let's head into our next section, inside the immunity bubble. Because, and this is key, this protection doesn't cover your third cousin twice removed. The law is extremely specific. Think of it like a VIP club with a very, very strict guest list. So who's on the list? Who gets past the velvet rope? The law basically sets up 3 protected groups. The first is your absolute core, direct family line. We're talking spouses, parents, grandparents, kids, grandkids. The second group covers relatives by marriage, which the law calls affinity. And the third group? That's for siblings and siblings-in-law. But it comes with a huge condition, a big asterisk that we're going to get to right now. So let's quickly break down these legal-sounding terms, because they're actually super simple. Think of your family tree. You're the trunk. Your ascendants are the roots that go up into the past. That's your parents, your grandparents, your great-grandparents, and so on. It's your direct line up. Your descendants are the branches growing from you out into the future. That means your children, your grandchildren, their children. This law gives absolute, total immunity up and down that direct vertical line of blood relatives. Okay, but what about affinity? This is a relationship that isn't created by blood. It's created by a legal document, a marriage license. When you get married, the law basically builds this invisible bridge connecting you to your spouse's family. So your mother-in-law, your father-in-law, your spouse's siblings, they all become your relatives by affinity. And for the purposes of this law, that bond, that bridge created by marriage, is considered just as important and worthy of protection as a direct blood tie. So let's just put this side by side to make it crystal clear. On one side, you have relationships by consanguinity.
That's a fancy word for blood relatives. Think DNA. This is your core biological family. On the other side, you have affinity, relationships created by a marriage vow. Think of it as your extended family line through your partner. What Article 332 does is recognize that family drama and financial disputes can be just as messy and damaging in either of these structures, so it pulls key members from both sides into that protective bubble.
Now, remember that third group? Brothers, sisters, and siblings-in-law? Here's that giant asterisk I mentioned. For this group, the immunity bubble is conditional. It only works if they are living together. And that's not a metaphor for having a close relationship. It means you literally have to share a roof. So let's go back to our console example. If your brother lives in another city and steals it from you while he's visiting, the bubble is gone. He can be charged. But if he's crashing on your couch or living in your spare bedroom when he takes it, the bubble's up and he's protected. The law basically assumes that sharing a home creates a more intense, day-to-day family environment that needs even more protection from the mess of a public trial. Okay, so we know who is inside the bubble. Now it's time to talk about what the bubble actually does. This isn't some magical shield against all crimes, not even close. If a family member commits a violent crime against you, this law does absolutely nothing to help them. The list of crimes that this bubble protects against is actually incredibly short and very, very specific. And here it is. This is the entire list. It's just 3 things: theft, swindling, which has the legal name estafa, and malicious mischief. That's it. Nothing else. You'll notice a pattern here, right? These are all property crimes. They don't involve violence. They don't involve threats or intimidation. The law sees these as essentially internal family arguments about stuff. Let's use our poor gaming console again to make this really clear. Theft is the simple one. Your brother just takes the console without asking. Swindling, or estafa, is about tricks and deceit. This would be if your brother said, "Hey, can I borrow your console for a big gaming tournament?" But he had no intention of ever giving it back. He was planning to sell it all along. He tricked you. And malicious mischief? That's just plain destruction. Maybe you have an argument, and in a fit of rage, he smashes your console. All 3 of these are definitely wrong. But if he's a relative covered by the bubble, none of them are criminally punishable.
So this leads us to the biggest question so far. Are we really saying this is a crime with 0 punishment? That someone can just steal from you and that's it? No consequences? Well, not exactly. And to understand why, we have to look at one of the most basic divides in the entire legal world, the huge difference between criminal liability and civil liability.
Let's try a metaphor. Think of criminal law as a massive lightning bolt thrown by the state. When you commit a crime, you've wronged society as a whole, so the government steps in to punish you with jail or fines. Now think of civil law as a set of scales. It's not about punishment from the state. It's about making things right for the victim. The goal is compensation, balancing the scales by making the person who did the wrong pay for the damage. And in a civil case, it's not the government who sues, it's you, the victim. So here's the bottom line. When Article 332 and its family bubble are in play, the number of criminal charges the state can file is exactly this: 0. Zilch, nada. That lightning bolt from the state is completely grounded. It has no power. The person cannot be arrested by the police for that act, they can't be prosecuted in a criminal court, and they cannot go to jail. But, and this is the most important but of this whole explainer, the law is not saying that what your brother did was okay. It still sees the act as wrongful, it's just not criminal. And because it's still a wrongful act, the other face of justice, the civil side, the scales, is still totally in play. The immunity bubble blocks the lightning bolt of punishment, but it does nothing to stop you from balancing the scales. You can still sue your brother in civil court to force him to pay you back for the value of the console he stole. So this family immunity bubble sounds pretty tough, right? But it's not indestructible. There are a few things that can pop it. And one of the biggest ones is what happens when you bring an outsider, a stranger, into the family dispute. So let's take a look at when the bubble bursts. Let's go right back to our story. But let's add a twist. Your brother still wants to steal your gaming console, but this time he gets his friend to help him out. Maybe the friend acts as a lookout, or maybe he helps carry it out of your house. We now have a third person in the mix, a stranger to the family. So what happens now? Does the bubble stretch to protect the friend too? This chart breaks it down perfectly. Let's look at the brother first. For him, nothing changes. He is still inside his personal immunity bubble. So, no criminal liability for him. But he is still on the hook for civil liability. He has to pay you back. But now, Look at the friend. He's got no bubble. He's got no family connection. So for him, the answer to criminal liability is a big, fat yes. He is fully exposed to that lightning bolt from the state. He can be arrested and prosecuted for theft, just as if he'd done it all by himself. And this shows us a really important legal idea. This exemption, this immunity, is a personal privilege. Think of it less like a giant dome covering the whole crime scene and more like a personal force field that only the family member gets to wear. It can't be shared, it can't be transferred. So the second an outsider steps in and helps commit the crime, they get no benefit from that family connection whatsoever. They face the full consequences of the law. All right, we've looked at the who, the what, and the when of this family loophole. Let's pull all these threads together for our final section. It's time to solve our opening scenario once and for all, and then ask that huge question, why in the world does a law like this even exist? So let's run through the final verdict on our gaming console heist. Step 1. Your brother steals your console. It's a crime of theft. Step 2. Because he's your brother and you live together, a criminal case is completely off the table thanks to Article 332. No arrest, no trial, no jail time. Step 3. You can, however, absolutely take him to civil court and sue him to get the value of the console back. And finally, Step 4. His friend, the accomplice, gets zero protection. He faces full criminal prosecution for theft. That is the complete picture from start to finish. So here it is, the final piece of the puzzle, the why. The whole philosophy behind this law is that putting a family on trial against itself, a son testifying against his father, a wife against her husband, creates a public scandal. It means airing all the family's dirty laundry and private conflicts for the whole world to see. And the law has decided as a matter of public policy that this can cause such deep, irreparable harm to the family unit that it's better for society to just stay out of it, at least for these specific property crimes. The idea is to let families handle these problems behind closed doors. And so that leaves us right here with one last big, difficult question. This law makes a choice. It trades public punishment for what it hopes will be private family harmony. But think about it. Does a law like this actually preserve families by keeping their fights private? Or does it risk creating a dangerous shield, a loophole that allows for patterns of financial abuse or manipulation to go unpunished, leaving the victims feeling like they have no real justice? That's the complicated and very real debate at the very heart of the family loophole.